With the state of the world today, the topic of diversity and inclusion has come up in all aspects of life. In our schools, our government, and the industries we work in. We notice that with all the media attention these things are receiving, there's one group of people that seem to be missing from the conversation: Hispanic and Latina students. My name is Shannon O'Donnell.
And I'm Harper Mundy. Looking around our classrooms, we started noticing a real lack of students of color in the music program, especially Hispanic students.
We looked at the music we most often listened to, and every artist was white. This begged us to ask the question, why is that? We sat down with a few of our Hispanic and Latina peers to hear what they had to say about it.
My name is Gabriela Riojas.
My name is Domenica Coka.
My name is Ignacio Arocena.
I am a student at Belmont University.
I am a senior creative and entertainment industries major with a music minor.
I am an artist and a senior.
So tell us a little bit about your ethnicity.
I am from Chile.
I'm mestizo, which means like half Native American, half Mexican American.
Both of my parents are from Ecuador, South America. I was born and raised in Miami, Florida.
I was actually born in the United States. I grew up in Chile. My dad is from Uruguay and my mother's Cuban.
Growing up, did you see any representation of yourself in music or media?
When I lived in Miami, yes, because the school that I went to was half of the day was in English, half of the day was in Spanish. And when I lived in North Carolina, that was never something that I would just randomly run into.
I would say I didn't really see a representation of my culture. I had glimpses of it with people like Shakira and J-Lo. They could only express themselves in that Latin way to such an extent.
What has it been like for you as a music student at Belmont?
You know, there has been times where it has been difficult because there are very few of us.
When I first got there, it was a huge culture shock. But it was also like good because I was able to like differentiate myself with my culture because I don't see it as represented in the Belmont community.
Like the fact that there's no many like Latin people at Belmont and et cetera, it's like people are like, oh, like, you know, that's so new, you know, and I'm like, oh. It always gave me something like to say I was different from the rest.
Have you faced any challenges as an artist or a musician because of your ethnicity?
In my case, I always was very identity problems. Like, okay, where I am actually from. I was able to be very flexible and adapt.
Sometimes people, brands, sometimes they use your culture as a gimmick. That's a big part of me, but I don't want that to be like exploited.
Is there anything you wish you could have told your younger self about embracing your culture?
Don't be afraid of being who you are and where you're from.
I think that the way that my parents raised me was to always be proud of my ethnicity and my culture. I'm so proud to be Latina because there's so much that comes from the Latin community. I think one of the biggest parts that I'm so proud of is the music.
It's all about what you can bring, I think, in many ways.
We looked up the ethnicities of the undergrad students at Belmont, and we found that less than 5% of the student body was Hispanic or Latina. What do you think about this?
I'm not shocked.
Yeah.
And I think I've had one person of color in my TT group in the 3 years that I've been a TT leader.
Yeah. I'm just gonna laugh because like, it's not a shocker, is all I'm gonna say.
Is there any change that you want to see at Belmont regarding diversity and ethnicity at Belmont specifically?
I think Belmont could definitely reach out more. There are so many people that are beyond talented and might never pursue a career in music because they don't know of places like Belmont. They don't have, like, that outreach never, like, gets here. Let's promote going after your dreams by making it possible for these people.
I think it would be amazing if there could be a class that just teaches the foundations of Latin music.
If there were more like Hispanic events on campus, like making sure that not just Hispanics, like we're aware of who we are. Mm-hmm. If everyone was more informed about us and more like aware.
Like if we do that, like why can't we focus on one that's just music? Mm-hmm. Because there's so many different versions of Latin music, and I think that would just be very cool.
That's actually one of the goals of this project. We started this with the hopes of just starting a conversation with people about Hispanic and Latina music because, at least in my experience, that's not something that's often talked about in the world of music.
While engaging in conversations like this is important, it begs the question, what now? What can we take away from this?
The first is education and awareness about Hispanic culture. Engaging in conversations with people who are different than you opens the door to gaining perspective and respect for one another.
The next is implementation. We saw the reactions to the demographics of undergrad students. We heard Domenica talk about wanting more classes that teach students about Latin culture. As students, we can engage in meaningful conversations with Belmont admissions to speak on what we want our student body to look like.
Lastly, find ways to actively immerse yourself in someone else's culture by listening to artists that don't look like you. We've put together a playlist of Hispanic and Latin artists that our friends love to give you a little taste of the music that they grew up with.
Thank you for your time today, and thank you to all our guests that talked with us. I know we both learned a lot from this, and we hope you did too. Even with just a simple conversation, we can increase awareness of Hispanic and Latin culture and diversity found at Belmont University.